We are live.
Good
Yeah.
morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's the
Good
2nd
morning.
of January, 2026.
What?
Wow.
Yay!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh, please put in the comments where you're watching from. Let us know where you are in this world. Where are you, Zane?
I'm in Nashville.
Nashville, okay, Tennessee.
Yeah. Nashville, Tennessee.
And hashtag AMT for a chance to win a
T-shirt.
t-shirt.
Cool. Cool. Is Nashville cold like Sarasota, Florida?
Like Sarasota?
Yeah.
I
Well,
haven't
well,
been to Sarasota. I
well,
think
it was like cooler in Florida. Although yesterday I took a nice walk and the sun was shining and it was actually pretty nice.
we had
Wasn't it?
sun. We had sun yesterday, but it was 50s. I think Sarasota's got his beat on the warmth factor, but definitely we're feeling a little cooler weather than
It's
usual.
44 right now in Central Florida.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I haven't even looked at what it is here because it's a little early for me to even. Let me see here. We're at 41. So hey, we'll get in the 50s soon.
Yeah.
But as long as the sun's shining, I get out there. So
Are you Eastern time or Central?
Central.
Central, okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Thanks for getting up extra early today, Zane. We appreciate you.
Oh yeah.
It's
Happy to do it.
all you're doing in this beautiful world of helping us heal and spirit of energy because we're questioning everything and
That's
and
good.
and maybe I could just ask you a quick question and a little
Sure.
bit for people to tell us a little bit about your background and how you sort of found yourself in this health and wellness space and how you've seen the changes through your experience here.
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. Happy to. Going back into my 20s, actually, I've been lifting weights, that kind of college kid stuff, beefy college kid. But my mid 20s, I'd seen my uncles struggling with heart disease, one of them heart disease and diabetes or stroke. So we saw all these things I didn't want for my life. And for some reason in my mid 20s, I had this sense of mortality about what we're now calling metabolic disease. This is back in the 90s. That I saw that consistently happening. My older relatives, I don't want this. My dad, who had paid attention to his diet, it wasn't perfect, and he'd exercised. He wasn't struggling like his older brothers were with these same problems. Wasn't even close. And so I thought, okay, there's something to this. This is not genetic, or it doesn't have to be. How can I affect this? And it got me curious and started experimenting with diets back in my 20s. Starting with really my first experiment was vegetarian vegan diet, which I ultimately not where I landed, but I spent about 3.5 years trying to make that work, and it helped. And I learned a lot from it with food, learning how to make my own food, understanding more about food, got me reading, got me investigating. Because back then it was all books and experimentation, right? We didn't have this. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have access to every study on the planet at our fingertips. And moving forward from there, that experiment didn't end well. I got run down. I did it to the extreme, did it to a point of I felt myself run down, got a little sick at one point, and realized I needed to add some protein back in, which completely, brought back a lot of strength and some mental acuity and energy that I'd been missing in that vegetarian and vegan diet. But it led me into becoming a trainer later in '98 and helping other people with most of them metabolic disease or weight loss at the very least. In 2002, started experimenting and recommending a low carb diet for my clients who wanted to lose weight, which was most of them, and really digging into that a little deeper as we got the internet, coming on board with blogs and so forth. 2009, 2010, they started experimenting personally with intermittent fasting fasted workouts, many times on top of that low carb diet, and recommending that to clients eventually as well. So I've been in it for a bit, with trying to, find a way to avoid metabolic disease, most of it through leveraging some form of metabolic stress, essentially, managing energy intake, the quality of that energy, and exercise and so forth. Until I think my late 40, almost 50, really. So about 5 years ago, hit a wall where I was basically run down. I felt like my muscles were burning all the time. I had, looking at blood work, slightly elevated fasting glucose in the 90s. A1C was creeping up at times, elevated TSH, but my T3 was a little on the low side, elevated sex hormone binding globulin. So I knew, okay, we got some stress markers here, and I wasn't sleeping well. And I was disrupted sleep, not recovering from workouts, and that's why I had to make some changes. I had to, like, all these things that I had leaned on for many years, over a decade, weren't working for me, and I'd been telling everybody to do them as well. So I had to step back and check my ego and start questioning some things that I had really held on to pretty tightly as being great tools, and think, okay, have I over leveraged them? What's the real benefit here? How do I toggle these things? And through that adjustments of the last 3 to 5 years, have really made some big changes to the way I approach diet, essentially. And that's kind of where we are here, where we're having this conversation, where I had to eliminate the intermittent fasting, and then started adding carbs in, and checking blood work and seeing how those changes over time impacted those markers I was watching, and how I felt and how I slept.
Are you in your 50s yet?
I'm 55.
55.
Yeah.
And so you've really been in the health and wellness space for a long time, working to sort of, and experimenting on so many different things.
Correct.
Where do you sort of put the carnivore experience now compared to your, would you call your experience now more keto with some plants added to that? And how do you feel, and what are your thoughts on that?
Currently, most of my calories come from carbohydrates, actually. That's where I am right now. And so I did, as far as strict strict carnivore, I was already in low carb and intermittent fasting when I played with strict carnivore. I actually did not feel well on strict carnivore. I lasted about 2 weeks. I felt like I couldn't get enough food. I felt very dehydrated. I was getting full before I was getting enough calories, is kind of how I felt. And I felt like I was stuffing myself. So I'd have spent a lot of time in a very low carb, where it's like less than 100 grams a day, with a lot of exercise and intermittent, like fasted workouts, where I'd fast for 15, 16, 17 hours and do a workout at the end of that, and then start eating, and it'd be like a little sweet potato, excuse me, or a little, a banana, something like that. And that, so going too low, especially with exercise and fasting, that would just tank me. And that's when I was feeling those and seeing those markers that were off and feeling kind of run down. I was under fueled. So now I'm eating a lot of rice and sweet potatoes and white potatoes and fruit, quite a bit of fruit, and monitoring, kind of pulling back a little bit on fat. And that was where I found. I started with just adding carbs, and now I've added carbs and pulled fat back in my experiment to see how that impacted not just weight or body composition, but also how that impacted my like A1C, fasted blood sugar, fasting insulin, And it's been quite a eye-opening experience for the last several years. So
and we have some questions coming, I'm sure. And I mean, where do we, we have all these definitions, and carnivore, ketovore, vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, and do you think, obviously there's some similarities in all our biochemistry and physiology, but where do you kind of put the environments that we live in, and how we sort of find ourselves in a space of, hey, this works best for me? Because I'm not here to say, hey, you need to be this one way, because ultimately the beauty is this is an experimentation for all of us.
Correct.
And do you think that carnivore is just not work? It doesn't work for anyone, or really it's, hey, you've got to experiment on yourself and figure that out, because maybe there are some epigenetic variances in all of us through our thousands of years of cultural evolution.
Yeah, I think the biggest differences in us, to start answering the question from that angle, is probably our biome and our gut bacteria, our biome present. I think that's where we have the greatest variation, rather more so than genetic variation. We have biome variations, which are impacted by our environment, by our diet, by our schedules, and how much, maybe light exposure, exercise, environment, from mold to toxins to how, the food that we eat. All those things impact the population of our biome, which is going to impact our immune system, our digestive abilities to absorb certain foods or process certain foods. It can impact our metabolic health. So I think that's where the greatest variation is, which tells me, if that's the case, we can change that. It will adapt. It will adapt faster than we will, right? Our gut population, or the biome, the bacteria, the bugs that are living all in us and around us. And I think we're very adaptive creatures. I think in a previous discussion, I mentioned, we're not the strongest or the fastest creatures on the planet, but we've reached an apex level because of our brain and because we're adaptive. We're highly adaptive, and our bodies do adapt to our environment pretty well, and it gives us a lot of variation in what we can eat and what we can do to survive. And I think that's where I got caught was over leveraging our adaptive response to survival. And I stayed in a place that created a lot of stress, metabolic stress, that was meant for survival, not for optimization. And so that's why I had to figure out what is optimal, not just what can my body survive, or what can I do that my body will adapt and survive. What was the downstream impact of those adaptations? And sometimes I believe what I believe is long-term keto and carnivore for many people, there are risks they should be aware of, to watch for. So if their body starts adapting in that way, over time, they need to make adjustments or make some changes, like to thyroid, to just basically the impact of stress, of metabolic stress, how hormones start to shift. And that's where I've seen some issues with people who are on a very low carb diet, who are having high A1C, higher blood sugar, which seems counterintuitive, higher fasting blood sugar, and low energy, and some other symptoms we can talk about if you want, that I've seen alleviated by adding carbs back into the diet.
You mentioned that you felt at some point you couldn't get enough calories in, not enough food. Do you think that may have something to do with your level of exercise? You have mentioned, you haven't said exactly, but I don't know how many hours a week or a day you do any type of training.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think there may be a relation there?
Well, yeah, exercise certainly increases calories, but it's not, I mean, for most people, and I say for myself, it's not more than, 10% of total calorie usage.
So
From
not not talking about calories specifically as far as
Okay.
the number of the burning, but do you think you're feeling that you were not getting enough calories or enough food, enough energy,
Mhm.
whichever way you want to put it, may have something? And the reason I mentioned this, we have famously Dr. Saladino, who also made a big change a few years ago,
Yeah.
and he does physical activities for several hours a day every day.
Right. Yeah, he's very active. Yeah, Paul's very active. Surfing and so forth like that. I'm nowhere near that active. I mean, I might do, at that time, let's see, what I was doing at that time was probably 4 strength training workouts a week that were maybe 45 minutes or so, at most an hour, but usually somewhere between 40 minutes to an hour. And then maybe a couple sprint sessions that were 20 minutes each, and maybe a little cardio on the side. So we're talking about a handful of hours, maybe 4 total hours a week with strength training, a little cardio, and some short sprint stuff. So nothing extreme in my viewpoint. Certainly not like Paul's surfing 3 hours a day, plus doing strength training weights. And so I wasn't doing extra, but I could feel the lack of recovery, and I could just by looking at calories and knowing what my base metabolic rate was and what I needed, I just knew I wasn't getting enough food, and I was back in the place where I was when I was doing a lot of the low carb and fasting and under fueling. It was a similar feeling, not the same, but I just got to the point where I started listening to my body, instead of trying to fight my way through when my diet or whatever I'm doing is telling me this isn't working. I start listening, because the mistakes I made in the past, from vegetarian to all the over fasting and fasted workouts, was I was putting my strategy ahead of my health outcome. And I would say, oh, well, I'm just not. So if there's something wrong, I need to do it. I need to diet harder. I need to do this harder, instead of stepping back and looking, okay, maybe what I'm doing is off, isn't adequate for my needs. Am I not just doing it well enough? And so it's like vegan harder, right? Low carb harder, fast harder. But when my body's telling me this isn't working, and my body should have more energy, should feel good on it, should recover well, should sleep well. And so that's why I had to be that's why I think I was a little less time in the carnivore and really keto even. I had to pump the brakes, because I was getting those signals again, like this isn't working. And
can we label this? Is it the Zane Griggs diet, like Atkins, or do we put it in Mediterranean? Really, can we funnel it somewhere? Or
I don't know that it's really that special, to be honest with you. I think, I moved from, I shifted. One of my big shifts were from I've tried Zone, which was a little which was the 40-30-30. You probably remember Zone. A lot of people I mentioned to who are under the age of 40 don't remember Barry Sears and Zone. But that 40-30-30, which is 40 carb, 30 fat, 30 protein, I shifted to 50, 55, 20 protein, and 55 carb, 20 protein, and 30. I don't know if I'd put a label on it, but it's bioenergetic is a word that is being thrown around a lot now, where it fuels for energy, for ideal energy consumption. But I basically avoid ultra processed food, primarily a whole food diet. And I don't think it's much different than some of the indigenous tribes we see out there, even currently, not just historically, but like the Tucasinta, the Catawbans, the Chimani, which all they're lean, they have great heart health. I'm not saying those are the ideal diets. Some of them are very plant-based because that's what's available, but they're in that 60 to Some of them are 60 to 80% carb. I'm not quite at 80, but at 15 to 20% fat, maybe 10% protein.
Okay, so
and they're doing very well.
So can we say animal-based, plant-based? Because we either eat whole foods or either animals or plants,
or both.
and no animal eats carbs or proteins. They truly eat either plant-based or animal-based. And maybe it's more fat-centric animal-based or lean meat animal-based. What are your thoughts on that? Because you say you don't eat processed foods.
Correct.
But so that must mean you eat primarily plant-based with some animal-based, but is it more leaner-based, or do you focus on the fattier cuts?
I try to stay leaner right now. And that's just because I'm on camera with my shirt off pretty often. And because I don't think the fat is unhealthy. It's just that if I know I want to be leaner, I pull back on the fat. And if I was going to be more active, I've increased my activity more, like Paul, let's say, for example, or if I was going to be like train an athlete, if I was training an athlete who was someone who was training 2-3 hours a day, or just very active, fat could come up a bit to 25, maybe 30% of calories. Whereas when I'm trying to lean out, I take it down to 15%. So we can look at, I think omnivores, there's plenty of other omnivore animals, like anyone in the pig family. So like bears, right? Pigs. And so, yeah, they have to hunt and forage, but part of our adaptation and our brain that helps us live as long and survive as long as we have is that we create technology, right? We cultivate our food. And I don't know that we'd be able to find these fattier cuts of meat that many of us are eating now if we had to hunt them. We don't see a lot of fattier animals out in the wild, like deer and moose and those kind of things. You might, unless you found a hippo, but for most people, it's like ruminants, it's giraffe, it's antelope, it's sheep, maybe. And you put a cow in the wild, put a cow in Costa Rica that's got to live off the land. It's got to eat grass instead of being fed other things. They're pretty, scrawny looking cows. And I think these fattier cuts that we're seeing are also the result of cultivation, just like our potatoes and our fruit have more starch in them or more sugar in them as a result of cultivation. It's part of our adaptive brains saying, hey, how do we feed more people? How do we keep fewer people from starving to death in the winter? Or how do we survive famine and drought and war? Or how do we build communities? How do we build empires? Through cultivation of both animal and plant foods.
Are primarily Mediterranean kind of lifestyles, and I say lifestyle because it's not just about what you eat, it's also about how you live.
True.
And how you commune and those sort of things. We're not born to be gladiators, truly. That's was a small percentage. We're built to commune together in a very sort of complex yet simple lifestyle. And we haven't proven that carnivore means you're going to live better or longer yet, have we?
No. I don't know that we've seen a carnivore culture out in hunter-gatherer tribe. I think other than you might say, Eskimos, Inuits, as the term is now. But where food is available, humans eat it. Where honey is available, they eat it. Like Tanzania, they're eating honey, 15% of their diet, out there, and so, or 50% of the calories.
Now you're in a biased environment, right? For all of us, right? It's sort of like the carnivore camp, the keto camp, the vegan, vegetarian. We have these tribes and camps and all of this. And
isn't that wild? We have the luxury to do that.
well, that's the beauty of it. And that is absolutely the beauty of it. And I think, we need to honor each and every person and peoples out there and how they're sort of finding it. And we're all experimenting. And how many meals a day do you eat, by the way?
Generally 3. If I get in the summer and I'm really pushing things with activity increases because it's just I'm outdoors more, there might be a 4th in there. If I was trying to put on weight, if I was trying to put on muscle and working out a lot more, I would add a 4th distinct meal. But I'm really trying to eat more intuitively, and on these days where I'm not as active, I generally eat less. It might be just smaller meals, but I'm letting my appetite kind of drive it right now.
What about green vegetables or raw plants and things like that?
Not a lot. I don't eat a lot of that. I don't think leaves are helpful. They're not very calorically beneficial. They're not. I think they're hard to digest. I can't imagine that we would have searched out leaves. Not that that's my only criteria for things, but I don't see a great deal of benefit from things like leafy vegetables. I'll have a carrot now and then. I think roots and fruits is a good way to look at it, with a little bit of green. Like I like white rice, but it's more of a potato. Raw carrot for that. If I feel like I need a fibrous source of some sort for detoxifying. But I don't eat a lot of the hardcore veggies. I just don't. If it's bitter, I think that tells me I don't need a lot of this. Where if it's sweet or if it's savory, that my brain likes those things. I have taste buds for savory and for sweet for a reason. And I have that good feeling after I eat something sweet or savory in my brain, if you want to call it dopamine or whatever, but that's for a benefit. That's a positive signal to tell me that's good food to eat. And whereas with leaves, I don't really get that.
Dr. Nelson, you want to hit some of the cues?
We have a bunch of questions, Alia, please.
But I would ask my question first because everyone's thinking this. I think, remember, we're in the carnivore bias community. On your 2 weeks, what exactly did you eat? Because carnivore could be many things.
You mean on meat. The carnivore, strict carnivore?
Yeah.
It was primarily just mostly red meat and some chicken, and it wasn't a whole lot, or pork, but it wasn't a whole lot. It was basically meat. Maybe a few eggs a day, so it was meat and eggs.
Meat and eggs. Yeah, because sometimes people say I'm doing carnivore and then eat chicken and egg whites, and that's not carnivore, and then feel very bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would eat a lot of. I don't think I was trying to push more fat in because I'd gotten plenty of protein, and I just didn't feel good, and it was like my body was like, oh, I don't think I can process this. But because I don't know. I haven't thought too much more about it other than my body said no.
Yeah, it makes sense. I understand. All right. I was just curious.
I've always felt great. I don't feel bad. And even though I've been on some supplements, I'm not always good about taking them. But the best supplement is Christ and gratitude. And I think it's mindset over everything else. But once you measure something and then it's off, your brain goes like, oh. But when I stopped measuring, I always felt great for me on the carnivore lifestyle. I do have some French fries from time to time and some Kiltz's ice cream from time to time, but not all the time. Except if you ask Brother Ray when I visit him, he says, when you come here, it's every day, which is not very common. So,
Got it. Yeah. I measured, I saw one thing I saw when I added the carbs in is my blood sugar. My fasting blood sugar had been for years in the 90s, like 94, 95, 96. A1C was starting to creep up. When I had the carbs in, my fasted blood sugar has come back down around closer to 80. So that came down, and that's been that way for a few years, several years actually. So around the 79, 80, 81. Fasting insulin had always been low. Last one I did was 2.6. My last A1C after doing 3 months, when I increased my carbs up to like about 400 grams or so a day for about 3 months, my A1C dropped down to about 5.3. Glucose was at 81, fasting insulin 2.6. It was, and my thyroid's better than ever. Less, the TSH is down. And T3 is right in range. So I feel like I have more, so measuring how I feel with biomarkers and see how those pair up. My sleep's better. When I increased it, my sleep improved for sure. So I'm not just going by how I feel, but also I do like to measure to see how's my body shifted or changed. And I think it's basically reducing the stress, reducing glucagon, reducing the amount of reliance I have on my liver making glucose was impactful. And so that glucagon is a stress hormone. I saw your podcast with Dr. Sivas. I appreciate that he's one of the few that's measuring glucagon in blood work, which I really admire and have wanted to have thought about adding as well. I think we should be looking at glucagon and free fatty acids in the blood, not just sugar and insulin. I think blood sugar, insulin, they've been almost made a culprit or a scapegoat when I don't think it tells the full story. I think those are symptoms of something deeper. I don't think they're the problem.
Nothing our body makes is actually pathologic. It's what we eat and how often we eat that tends to be the most pathologic problem. Because, so I mean, that's my 2 cents in this, because again, whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, pescatarian, or carnivarian, there is a lifestyle that actually will lead you to live longer. But for many of us, carnivores certainly help tremendously. So next question.
I think it's great. It's very helpful for, like you said, removing the things we put in that can be pathological. Yeah, I agree.
Chuck asked, Dr. Kiltz, I know you're not about numbers, but do you feel a difference since you changed your supplements in relation?
I answered that.
He answered that.
Oh, how did you answer that? I was looking at somebody else's question.
That was the whole conversation.
I missed it. I knew I heard about numbers somewhere. Okay, Irish breakfast. What would you say about someone who struggles with physical and mental fatigue? Somewhere here, Irish breakfast says.
Zane, any comments?
I'd have to look at what they're doing now. I think, depending on, and that's where I would look at numbers, like what is causing that. I think a low thyroid, a low T3 would cause physical and mental fatigue and weight gain and so forth. And so, so I would be looking at T3, and looking at what they're consuming,
I mainly eat a vegetarian diet, some eggs and fish, lots of vegetables, but experience fatigue. I eat only meat on occasion.
Interesting.
Well, you mentioned the microbiome. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the microbiome going a little out of control.
I think metabolic disease has more than one stimulant or pathology that can be created, but I do think it all comes back to how it impacts the mitochondria's ability to make ATP or make energy, and that's where we start getting into. That's when the body responds with stress hormones and elevating some of these responses. But I think one of the factors could be endotoxin, and I think that's been shown. You can see that in the literature, that endotoxin or dysbiosis in the gut. When you have an imbalance there, you have an increase of one of those endotoxins is called lipopolysaccharide or LPS. And when we have a leaky gut, those LPS can escape, get into the bloodstream, cause inflammation, create a lot of inflammatory markers that impact the mitochondria's ability to make energy. And they see this in the heart, in the mitochondria in the heart, in the liver, and in muscle. And that can cause that impact on those mitochondria ability to make ATP, then leads to the stress response of the body to try to make up for that. And that's where that's to me where I see the beginning of metabolic disease is adapting to that. So in one sense, a disrupted gut or dysbiosis can certainly create metabolic disease, which I think one of the benefits of of a low carb or carnivore, because it done right, it eliminates a lot of these processed foods that can stimulate that dysbiosis or the LPS creation in the gut, as well as, heavy metals, glyphosate, the other chemicals that can impact that. So as elimination diet can be very impactful for alleviating the dysbiosis, which then alleviates the trigger for the metabolic disease.
Just wanted to redirect to this question, if you could. I know there's not a lot of information. Sometimes people ask questions, but they don't have enough space to put all the details. But this person that eats basically a vegetarian diet with some fish, eggs, and rarely meat.
Okay. Yeah. I felt very low energy when I was eating very low carb or very low meat or vegetarian or vegan diet. Like didn't have eggs, didn't have meat at all. Low energy was definitely what I experienced. Low mental energy, especially when I added the like fish and eggs and some whey protein on a daily basis, after being vegan for 3.5 years. My mental energy is what I noticed right away, where I forgot to drink coffee for 3 days and didn't realize it till it kind of like, wait, I haven't had coffee for 3 days. Oh my gosh, the lights came on in my brain when I added the animal protein and fats back into my diet. And then my energy improved to the point like, oh, I was recovering from my workouts. But I think if depending on, obviously there's not a quantitative information here as to how much he's actually eating, but I would say bring those animal proteins and fats back into your diet. Those should be your primary fats. Sources of fat should be the animal fats. And they're great sources of energy and for mental health, they're essential.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Question.
Let's see. This is a carnivore question. Cam, I haven't seen much about eating ham on the carnivore diet. Is it? Whoever wants to answer that one. Zane doesn't have an answer.
I'm not on the carnivore diet, so I'm not big on ham. I eat ham. I kind of get overwhelmed by some of the stuff they inject in it. I suppose you can find a good source of, like, you find a good farmer that makes you just a traditional ham. I'm sure it would lack some of those things they inject in ham in the grocery store. I don't know. I don't have a real strong opinion on.
I think your answer is good if it's not full of chemicals. If you can find some ham that's not full of chemicals.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it my primary source of meat or protein. I don't know that's, but if it's in there here and there is something you enjoy, yeah, go for a clean version of it.
Let's see. Bacon Runner, how much were you eating when you felt like you couldn't get enough food on carnivore?
I estimate it was close to probably 2,000 calories, maybe 2,100, 2,200, just based on how much I was eating and what I was eating. Trying to hit about 200 or so grams of protein, 220 grams of protein, and then the rest was kind of fat. So I think it was hitting closer to 2,000, maybe 2,100, 2,200. But it was more of a feeling. And then I said, what's going on? Why can't I get enough? It's like there was a need for more, but at the same time, my stomach was like, no more. That's basically what I was just full. I didn't feel like, it felt like I was stuffing myself to get more in. And I was, using certainly had activity like workouts that really are optimal with some glucose on board. So
this is a good question here.
Okay.
Chuck says, do you know the life expectancy of any of those tribes eating high carb?
They're like the Shamani. They're saying that they have excellent heart health in their people over 60. So they obviously have people that were over 60. But we're talking about people who live off the land. So they're not. They have hard lives. They're moving a lot. They're hunting, gathering, maybe cultivating some of their corn and some of their fruit and so forth. But a lot of them they're hunter gatherers. But when they look at their like say under 40, over 40, over 60, they have excellent heart health and they're lean and active. But they also have things like infection and, injuries and disease because they're living in a rough environment, hunter-gatherer environment.
Quality or quantity? What's our measure in life? Maybe this is part of our problem. It's like, oh, we have a lot of people living longer than ever before, but they're on tons of drugs and living in memory care homes.
I mean, yeah, quality of life is I think we need to reconsider how we look at that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Plenty of people, I've seen it, people the last few years of their life, I would have chosen to not extend my life into those last few years. They're not pretty.
Dr. Kiltz and Zane, I shared a cab with a 90-year-old man 2 days ago, and he was angry. The DMV took his license away at 90 and said he couldn't drive anymore. And I asked him what the secret to living a long life, because I thought he was in his 70s, the secret to living a long life. And he said, live life and work. He works every day. He still works on his farm every day at 90 years old. Totally all cognitive functions there. I did ask him what he ate.
Except they took his driver's license away.
Yeah, he was so pissed. He was so angry about it.
Next question, Holly. Lots of questions. Go down the question.
I'm going to tell you what he ate, though. He only ate one time a day and one snack.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Eat less frequently and think love of life.
There you go. Next question.
Where are the stars? Go right to the stars.
Yeah, I'm going. Tony, the nutrition guy. How much were you eating on carnivore? How did you break your fast? Intentional workouts plus lean meat plus breaking fast with fruits or veggies. Would you stress your body in my experience?
That's kind of hard to follow that, but yeah, I did stress it. So yeah, I would break the fast with what I needed. So when I was carnivore time, I wasn't even fasting anymore. I was just eating because I was trying to get as many calories in as possible. So I was eating 3 meals because I didn't think I'd get enough with the fasting. When I was doing fasted with a little bit of carb on board, it was fasting with, it was right after a workout. So it was protein and sweet potato or protein and a couple of bananas or something like that. So it was that simple. Nothing. Okay. It wasn't overabundant. Yeah.
Next is carnivore muscle. Jonathan, would Zane debate Bart K or I?
I have very little respect for Bart K. I've seen how he speaks to people. He's a bit of a troll, honestly. I saw what he took apart Lisa Wiedemann's video where she was explaining the things that she was dealing with. Very disrespectful. I'm not sure of the point. I love having this conversation with Dr. Kiltz because he has an open mind, open conversation. I feel like we're two people here who are looking at the same puzzle, trying to solve the same puzzle, but from different perspectives and different levels of experience. But it's for the same purpose, which is to help people. We're just coming at it in an agreeable way, not because we agree on everything about the diet and lifestyle, but because we agree and we both want to serve the same purpose and help people. We're just coming. I like solving the puzzle maybe from the corners, and he's looking at it from another part of the puzzle in the middle, and he's building out that way. And I think we have these conversations where we're collectively trying to solve this puzzle and letting each person have their own perspective and inputs. Whereas a debate where I'm just arguing and who's right or who's wrong, and then we have the crowd cheering like it's some sort of gladiator match. That seems very self-serving and not really progressing anything anywhere. We can each cherry pick our own data and find something to support our side. We can, we can pull out data that supports, I can pull out lots of data that support what I'm saying. He can pull out plenty of data that supports what he's saying. And then we're just throwing our data at each other, not in a way to move forward, but in a way to argue and try who's right or who's wrong. That in the big picture, we're all wrong because none of us, we all have a very small view or understanding of what we're actually trying to solve. We just have different pieces of the puzzle, very small pieces of this puzzle solved in our own minds. And by creating these debates where we're just arguing, throwing data at each other, we're isolating our pieces of the puzzle and building walls around it, which means we're not going to solve it. So I really don't see the benefit of my energy in dealing with people who are just angry and who like to be divisive and take people apart for the response of the crowd. So, that's where I have great conversations with you, Dr. Kiltz, and with like Ben Azadi, keto guy. Although for years he said, "Hey, cycle in and out of keto. It has some long-term impact you don't want." Great relationship with Ben. We can disagree on these things, but at the same time agree on where we're headed. And so, open conversations I love. Yeah. Debates I see no point, honestly. So no.
A conversation.
A conversation.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Next, Alia.
I think you answered this already.
Just go right to the start. Just go right down the list.
Yeah. Does he fast? I think you asked that or answered that already.
Are you doing, I mean, is there any purpose, you think, to fasting for any of us from time to time, or do we throw in too much all the time?
I think there's a lot I think it's become too trendy. There's too much all the time. When we look at, like, there's studies looking at people who are doing Ramadan, right? Ramadan is just a 30-day, and they're seeing an imbalance of cortisol just over the period of Ramadan, where cortisol is supposed to peak between 7 and 8 a.m. and then diminish until midnight, start increasing there, where they see that during that fasting, where they just eat in the evening, a reduced amount of cortisol, 7 to 8 a.m., and it increases in the evening, which of course would impact sleep. My experience, I've also have clients who, if they take their fasting glucose after a 12-hour fast, it's in the 80s. After a 15-hour fast, it is increased into the 90s on a regular basis. So I see, depending on what else is going on in that person, could cause some metabolic stress that is just unnecessary. For that, we need to look at all of the downstream or the impact of these habits. If you're trying to eliminate something, I understand. I don't think it's a good weekly weight loss tool. I would not recommend it for that. So I think it depends, but I wouldn't use it on a regular basis. I think it's become way too trendy. I over leveraged it myself, so I don't recommend it anymore.
All right, Tony, the nutrition guy. What does my body doesn't like this? What symptoms did you have?
On the carnivore, I guess, is that what?
Yeah, on carnivore.
I didn't feel good.
God, which one is that? Everything. Next.
I didn't feel energized. I didn't feel like I was sleeping well. I didn't feel like I was getting what I needed. I felt dehydrated, all of those things. Again, I started listening to what my body tells me. It's usually based on energy, recovery, and sleep.
And just to be clear, you have never been really 100% carnivore except for that 2-week period that you mentioned, right?
Correct.
And so it's not like you have been carnivore for 3, 5, or 15 years, and then you're all of a sudden eating carbs, which at some point
I think
within the last few months, the internet around you erupted based on a wrong premise.
On a wrong premise that
because you were the animal diet guy.
Animal
filmed guy.
And animal was never meant to be, in my view, what I was told, animal was about looking at the role of meat in the human diet. When I came on, it was not about the carnivore film. It was when I spoke to the director about it, who wrote it, he said it was never meant to be, this is the way to eat. It was, we're asking questions about, even the last line of the film was, could this be? It's a question. My role was to ask questions. My role was to interview people, not be prescriptive in diet. And I was brought in by the producer because he told me, I had a broader point of view than other people. I had a broader scope or broader viewpoint about diet than someone who was he didn't want someone who was just carnivore asking the question.
Well, and really what we're saying is much of this is we've forgotten our ancient meat-centric lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just saying, hey, don't forget that in our true nature, animal products were part of who and what we are. We've kind of, in some way, thrown that out. And again, it doesn't have to be eat mostly meat and very little plants, but it should be part, or historically it's been part of our evolution.
I think it's the healthiest fat source we have.
What is that book,
and
Dr.
protein
Kiltz?
source.
Oh, this is Schlank's book from the 40s, Meat 3 Times a Day.
That's a good plan.
It's a good book. I mean, it's a good book. And all he said was people who ate more animal products and fatty meat, organ meats also, tend to be healthier than those that ate a plant-centric, low animal meat diet. And
and my point in bringing up these indigenous tribes that are eating 60 to 80% carbohydrate was is not to say those are prescriptive, but it's to show that they have no signs of metabolic disease. They have excellent heart health for how long they live, because the rest of their life is pretty hard. But if carbohydrates as a whole caused metabolic disease, then they would have evidence of it, because 60 to 80% of their diet comes from carbohydrates. If carbohydrates cause metabolic disease, which was my whole approach at the beginning, was how do I avoid or reverse or prevent metabolic disease? The first thought, it's got to be carbs. So I said carb insulin hypothesis. Well, I don't think the carb insulin hypothesis has held up. And when we look at these indigenous tribes who eat 60, 80% of their diet from carbs, there's no evidence of metabolic disease or heart disease. And those are the things I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, and I think our biggest problem is a raw plant-based, processed plant-based, which is ultimately damaging the liver, which is leading to a lot of insulin resistance and other problems, and then the metabolic or microbial problem, which we're just basically the day you're born and the day you die. It's kind of like we're on a feeding fest and nobody ever gets off of it. Sure. And you're being what's the right word I'm thinking? Purposeful in how we should be living. It's not focused on just food. It's focused on, okay, here's something that works for me. We're seeing it. I mean, ultimately, I know for myself, carnivore helped me heal a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't only eat meat. I eat mostly meat in all of this. And you're commenting, because ultimately, if you look at lifespan, Mediterranean diet still, according to the science, but there is a lot of drugs and dissections and doctors that go along with that lifestyle. That's one of our problems.
Yeah, and I think Mediterranean diet was a marketing plan, to begin with. If the Mediterranean diet, as we have heard about it, was to sell olive oil.
Right. And I'm Italian, but I'm saying it as sort of culturally.
Culturally, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. If we look at the real Mediterranean diet, not the one that's been marketed to us by Harvard, and other food companies, but if we look at truly how they live, there's a lot of meat in there. There's over 20 different ways of making prosciutto in Italy, right? I mean,
because what Zane is doing and everyone's doing here, which is different than, I follow the heart healthy American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association. That's the beauty of what we're doing here in social media. And even the movie Animal was saying, hey, we want to share the stories, because you're seeing some carnivores also that have ventured back into adding more plants and feeling better. Right, Zane?
I've coached some of them. Yeah. I've coached some of them that were feeling bad. They had hair loss. They had low energy. They were just run down and low or low T3, low thyroid. And so I don't know that because I didn't follow carnivore that excludes me from being able to help these people, because I didn't do carnivore for 3 years, because I see patterns in hormonal changes of whether you're keto, carnivore. I mean, you can differentiate between keto and carnivore and low carb and fasting and all these things. But if your hormones are having the same result or response, it's all the same. It's the same. We're treating a body. We're not treating a diet.
Yeah.
The diet that makes the same result in the body is the same in the body. So I'm treating a body. And so with some of those people, like one of them, I increased her carbs tremendously towards the majority of her calories and reduced her fat. And she's working out, she's active, and she saw benefits. She thyroid improved, hair started growing back, she had more energy, she's getting stronger. We're treating a body, we're not treating a diet. Does that make sense? So it's what are you feeling? What do your markers look like? What's your goal? Where are you coming from? Okay, this is missing. And it's that simple. It's not, there's no, oh, you're carnivore, so that's different than if you're treating it with, it's not different, because we all are. It's how is your body responding to the diet? Okay, this is what's missing. It's not about what have you done for an extended period of time. I mean, we're all human.
Yeah,
we're all human.
Stories, lots of stories. Next question, Alia. Couple more, and then we're sharing great stories. That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Rose asks, should
be concerned about high T3?
High T3, like out of range T3.
That's what the question says.
If it's out of range, I would think, you're hyper. You have hyperthyroid. That'd be very unusual, but that's something you'd want to
check.
See your physician about if that's. But it's highly unusual that it happens. And I'm not a doctor, so disclaimer: not a medical professional.
We are, and we still say the same thing. See a doctor.
Yeah.
Not giving medical advice on YouTube.
Not medical advice.
And the question, I mean, doesn't say if it's blaming carnivore or any type of diet specifically. You need to be checked by your doctor if your T3 is high. That's simple. I would know what would cause that, to be honest.
Can someone address excess iron toxicity leading to aching joints and other debilitating health issues to the point of cancer, as per Ray Pete, doctor, and his community? Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to speak to that. I don't have enough experience with that.
Most of it's, in my opinion, it's a high plant protein, low animal fat diet, and because most of that is, I think, liver damage anyway. But it's a problem. There's a lot of iron overload, but it's not from eating strictly fatty red meat. It's usually plant heme iron, not heme iron from animals, but from plants.
Non-heme iron is what creates toxicity in the liver. Yeah. Because
plants microbes damage the liver more than anything. And think about it, the liver is the first organ to see everything that got into your gut.
Absolutely.
Because all the blood flow of all the gut goes right to the liver. And fat, when you eat it, raw fat when you eat it, does not go to the liver. It goes to the lymphatics. And so it tends to be the microbes that are flourishing in that environment. I mean, SIBO is very common, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's those toxins. Tons
of toxins in plants. And that's why white rice and white potatoes are actually, white rice and the white potato, no skin, are the least toxic and the most nutrient dense. And that's why white rice and potatoes are such a staple for the world.
Yeah, they're my staples. I mean, for the two of my staples, and sweet potato in there, and that's my staples. So I agree. I have the least reaction to that. You're not seeing me eat a lot of especially raw veggies, other than maybe a carrot stick, which is a root. But yeah, I agree 100% there.
Craig Faulkner, do you think it's harder to go carnivore if you have ADHD? And does carnivore help alleviate symptoms or ADHD?
For me, although I think it's actually a beneficial problem, but I think it helps. I think more fat helps because fat. See, when you eat the fat, it suppresses the microbes in the gut, so it keeps them kind of at a lower level, which is part of the problem because of fermentation.
Gut fermentation leads to the ADHD issue.
It leads to a lot of diseases, damage to the nanomotors of every cell of our body, and plus drugs, alcohol damages the human brain, and so we can't think or hear or see or act straight because our brain is damaged.
Yeah, eliminating, reducing alcohol is like something I might have on like when my kids come home for the holidays, I'll have a glass of wine or two. Other than that, I really don't.
Right.
Drink.
Minimize, eliminate to maximize.
Right.
Next, go ahead and read that question, Alia.
Oh, okay. Chuck, since you eat carbs, do you include any food with sugar like white sugar, honey, or fake sugar? And are you heavy fats?
I do include honey, for sure. And I let in a little dark chocolate. One, it's got a great fat source, much like beef, it's stearic acid, right? So yeah, I'm not really afraid of sugar. Once I kind of offset the carb insulin hypothesis of not being accurate, I'm not afraid of sugar, but it's not, I don't think it's a great energy source like the sweet potatoes or the white potatoes or the rice. Those are my main, and fruit in general. But if you, I think fruit is probably one of my biggest energy sources, to be honest, depending on the time of year. But yeah, a little sugar. So I don't know if I can throw this in, but there was a Kempner's diet, the white rice diet from 1939, where he reversed hypertension, diabetes, obesity, even retinopathy with a white rice. It was white rice, fruit juice, and white sugar. And he did this this diet ran out of Duke University for 74 years, 18,000 people with like about a 65 to 70% effective rate for reversing hypertension, diabetes, retinopathy, obesity on this diet. It's 92% carb, 5% protein from what's in the rice, but white sugar was part of it, especially when they were trying to test these things. So is it ideal? Is that an ideal diet? No. Would I tell someone to do that? But it tells me these are not the causes of metabolic disease. Do I eat ultra processed food, which is full of these processed oils and sugars and grains? No. But I'm not afraid of some sugar in my diet.
So sugar, I would say simple sugars are less toxic than complex sugars.
Okay.
Because the complex sugars are fermentable. The
simple starches.
Well, just when we use the word starch, we're talking about a more complex sugar, but the complex sugars are more fermentable, and the fermentation is the biggest culprit, along with the fact that many of the fermentable sugars contain a lot more complex glycans, and the glycans are the most antigenic, inflammatory, and then all the toxins and chemicals that come with them. Simple sugars contain less toxins, are less fermentable, because most of our fermentation doesn't happen in the upper gut, it happens in the lower gut. And that's where our biggest problem is. But I mean, drinking your calories all day long is not good. It's pathologic. I mean, that's not what we're meant to do. And we're not meant to really consume sugar, simple sugars, even honey all day long. They're meant for time to time in treats, but not to be our mainstay. That's why drinking your calories, because so many people drink them all the time. It's like their go-to. Even the fake sugars are not good for us all the time. Sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good policy overall. Eat your food.
Yeah.
Don't drink your food.
Same thing with alcohol. Minimize, eliminate.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, Zane.
Yeah.
Next.
But not a fear. I
Well,
don't think
it's 7:04.
Let's just get this last one. So what? We need to eat plants on carnivore now? I get confused nowadays. Do we need to eat plants on carnivore? Do we not need to eat plants? So let's clarify this. Zane is not carnivore. Dr. Kiltz is carnivore. If you eat plants, you're not carnivore. Dr. Kiltz, what do you have to say?
Yeah, and this isn't a debate today. We're just having a conversation to share experience.
Yeah.
And each and every one of us has the opportunity to look, listen, learn, read, experiment. That's what this is about.
There you go. All right, let's do the giveaway.
Oh, wait, just oxalates from potatoes and sweet potatoes. What's your thought on this, Zane?
I am eating them. I have not experienced. I don't have any negative experience with them. Sally Norton is a good friend, and I respect her greatly. I listen to her. She's warned me about the sweet potatoes. I am not fully decided. This is something I'm not fully decided on, to the point that I'm including them in my diet. So I think there's other aspects of our health that would impact the way our body handles oxalates that I don't fully grasp yet, to where I can sit here and explain it confidently.
Well, and I think that a well-cooked potato and rice is going to be a lower oxalate load, but not a no oxalate load. So it all depends on how your body handles these things also.
It is. It's low. We can't be no oxalate. That's almost impossible.
Right.
I mean, except maybe carnivore.
What about coffee? What's your thoughts on coffee?
Right here, I got my coffee cup my daughter gave me. It says Carb Addict on it.
I love it.
Yeah, my daughter gave it to me for my birthday. When I do, I love coffee. I got down to a quarter cup at one point in my early 40s, and we had our fourth child in our 40s, and I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm back on the coffee train. So that was 15 years ago, and I haven't turned back. Nice. So
God bless you.
It's in there.
All right, now let's do the giveaway.
Right,
and then we'll get Zane to give a final comment.
Okay.
Glory, I am. Please email me. Congratulations. You will get a t-shirt. Alia@drkiltz.com. I'll put that in the chat. There we go.
And Zane, where can people find you? And do you have any new books or anything coming out, or something we should make sure we get to?
Well, ZaneGriggs.com has all my socials. I'm pretty active on Instagram at Zane Griggs Fitness, but ZaneGriggs.com has my socials. It's a free download on there. So what I'd love to let people know, if they want to know how I coach or what I'm approaching, it's a PDF basically. It's find it under free40plan.com, but basically it's my Fit Over 40 plan. It's a free download, and you can see how I approach diet, exercise, recovery, the biomarkers I look at as far as the ranges that are in there. Those are all included. So happy to let people have that free 40 plan. Again, you can find a link to it on my Instagram or website, YouTube, wherever.
And we'll make sure we have links to all this on Dr. Kiltz and Kiltz Mighty Tribe. Zane, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom. And what about for us in our 70s and above?
Oh man, keep moving. Well, I like what this guy said. Like you talked about that farmer who didn't retire. I think retirement is the beginning of the end. It's like, find something that inspires you and keep moving. Like, definitely exercise, but keep moving. Find something that mentally excites you, that you're chasing, that you're going after. As you said, it starts with a mindset, and it is like, what inspires me? What am I pursuing? We are meant to have pursuits. Yeah. What am I pursuing? What gets you out of bed in the morning that's bigger than you? And find something bigger than you want to take on and tackle. And that'll keep your mindset right with both moving, being about good work, helping people. And it gives you a desire to keep yourself healthy, so you make better decisions with all those other areas that we've been discussing as well, because you want to be around to solve that problem or pursue that passion. Find a passion and go after it, and don't stop.
Passion, purpose. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. What do we got happen? Anything more today, Dr. Nelson? Or are we kind of off until my Sunday at 10 a.m.?
Sunday. Yes.
All right.
Sunday, 10
I will
a.m.
see everyone Sunday at 10 a.m. A pleasure to be here with everyone, and God bless. And thanks, Zane, again.
Thank you,
For
Dr.
being
Kiltz.
here,
Appreciate
Zane.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys
Thank you,
later.
guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.